The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad. Welcome to Liberated Sisters. Thank you for joining us. We're recording live right here at Morris Media Studios. Today is a full Liberated Sisters Justice Report. We're going to be talking about police violence. We have some trials. A trial that just got underway. We have a resolution in that case. We have another one that's going to trial in Chicago, very heavy. The one that just concluded was in Dallas. We also have a very tragic shooting. We want to talk about all of this. And of course, there's the Nike Colin Kaepernick controversy that people are still talking about, that ad. And our guest is going to talk about a personal issue that's happening with his family. So if we think that just the everyday man and woman is under attack by law enforcement, we're going to hear from a law enforcer himself about what's happening with his own family directly. And so thank you for joining us here at Liberated Sisters. And now the Justice Report. The Justice Report is taken from the great Final Call newspaper. Please subscribe to the Final Call. Support us at finalcall.com. I serve as the national correspondent at the pleasure of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his editor-in-chief, Brother Richard Muhammad. Our managing editor is Sister Starla Muhammad. And shout out to the entire Final Call staff and contributing writers, production, everybody. Please support the Final Call and definitely get your issue from the brother on the corner and coming door to door with that bow tie. So what's happening in the Justice Report? You've heard about it. If you haven't, look at it at Final Call. A bizarre tale, an unexplained cop shooting of a black man killed in Dallas. This brother was in his own home, did not deserve to die, and especially that way. So his name, this story is written by Final Call contributing writer Jihad Hassan Muhammad out of Dallas. And so the victim is our brother Botham Shem John. He's from the Caribbean. The officer who killed him, her name, the Dallas police officer, is Amber Geiger. She's charged in the fatal shooting of this brother. The reports are that this officer is claiming, the narrative they're having is they're claiming that she went into, after a 15-hour shift, the wrong apartment. She lives on the bottom floor of this complex. The brother lives on the top floor. There is, according to Brother Jihad's article, a distinct red mat. And as well, the key didn't work. However, the door happened to be open. So there's a lot of things that are not right about this story. It smells bad. Not this story, but this incident, right? The officer's claims. There's a lot of upset about how long it took to bring her in. They were going to charge her. They were not going to charge her. I won't go into full details. I want you to really dig into this story in the Final Call. The brother uncovered a lot of the facts. He's revealing them, as well as a lot of different stories and rumors that are swirling around. I even saw a photograph myself online. I have not verified that, but the photograph is circulating in social media that shows our brother with this officer and others in a photograph. And we take pictures all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that we really know somebody if an arm is around you. But at the end of the day, the photograph suggests that there is some type of relationship there. Not relationship in terms of a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a couple thing, just that they knew each other. However, Brother Jihad points out in his article that according to the family and friends of Brother Botham, they did not know each other. He did not know her. So all of these facts are going to bear out, right? That's one story in the final call. Another story that I want to highlight in the Justice Report is Laquan McDonald. People were outraged over this. Thank you, Brother Brian Crawford, Final Call contributing writer, for uncovering what's happening in that case. And so the officer, Jason Van Dyke, is getting ready to go to trial. They're selecting the jury now. And this was a very, very, very hard case coming out of Chicago. And none of them are easy, right? Let's face it. None of them are easy. These killings are very horrible. But he shot 17-year-old Laquan McDonald, and the brother was not doing what they said he was doing. He said he was charging at officers, and he was not doing that. So the trial of that accused killer cop is open, and the tensions are continuing to mount. That's in Chicago, finalcall.com. A story that I wrote a follow-up to out of New York, a very gruesome killing and dismemberment of 26-year-old Brandy Odom. So we're still seeking justice for Brandy. Her mother, the Nation of Islam Mosque number 7, our historic mosque in New York, has been pressing the district attorney. They've met with him. And so Miss Nicole Odom, her mother, has been getting more updates versus finding out what's happening in the case in the news. But she told me by phone that she's still not completely satisfied because she's told that there are leads, but are the leads leading to anything, or are there duds? And so that is also in our national story. And there are many, many, many other great news articles and features, as you know, in the Final Call newspaper. And for those who have never heard of the Final Call, it's finalcall.com. And now to take us further into the Justice Report is going to be our brother Damon K. Jones. He's a New York representative of blacks in law enforcement, and he's here to talk about that and some other issues. Brother Damon, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sister. How you doing, sister?
I'm doing very great. Thank you, sir. And how are you?
I'm fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we began the Justice Report with just a few of those stories. I would like for you to weigh in on those, Brother Damon. And also, you're here, we're going to talk about the blacks in law enforcement position regarding the Colin Kaepernick Nike ad, right? Because
yes, ma'am.
People, not to dovetail into that first, but I just want to let people know why I'm mentioning that. One would say, why does blacks in law enforcement have to put out a position on that? Well, because the Police Protective League, or the Police League, came out and
yes,
made some references, so you all had to come back in there. And then, of course, in your city, in your area, your daughter's business is being attacked, and you say, your family says it's retaliation for you speaking out against injustices. So let's go to what I covered in the Justice Report so far, and then we'll come right up to that. And I want to let you know that Cephas' Uncle Bobby Johnson, the uncle of Oscar Grant III, who was killed by Johannes Meserly on a platform in Oakland, will be joining us to weigh in on these things, Brother Damon.
Okay, great.
But take it away.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at when we deal with all these cases is the disregard of black life through law enforcement and the justice system. I really believe that we have to, as black people, we have to look at our elected officials, we have to look at our police management, and we have to utilize our power in our communities. When you have so many cases and unsolved homicides, this is a disregard for black life. There was, I think the Washington Post did a report, and they analyzed the percentages of homicides that were solved in the black communities and homicides that were solved in the white communities. And in white homicides, there were close to 70% solved homicides. And when it comes to black people, it was around 47% solved homicides. So we're looking at continuing. I used to live in Mount Vernon, New York. Mount Vernon, New York is a community that is over 70% black. We have a black mayor. we have a black city council, we have a black board of ed, we have a black commissioner, black police chief, and majority black officers. And majority of our homicides are going unsolved. So we have to look at how the black life is undervalued in law enforcement and the criminal justice system.
Wow. This is really something else. And you're right. We have to. And we've been making some ground, right? Would you say, of course, Black Lives Matter and all of the different anti-police violence and anti-violence movements have been making a lot of progress. The people are growing more and more dissatisfied. But we also see that as the satisfaction increases, so do the killings. And again, these are just killings that we know about. These are the ones that are so egregious and happen to have been captured, right?
Exactly. But we also have to understand that, with the awareness, it has to come public policy, right? We have to address public policy, and I think that's what we're from a black law enforcement perspective. I think that's where we have been actually been failing in actually changing public policy. It's good to march, it's good to gather, it's good to aware the public. But if we're not changing public policy, if we're not changing city policy, city legislation, police policy, police training, police accountability, we're going to continue to see black people, whether it's police brutality, whether it's unsolved homicides, whether it's discrimination, black officers and black people in the black communities, we're going to continue to see that.
Wow. Now, let me get your perspective on what's happening down with Brother Botham in Dallas, the killing that took place there. And look, that killing is that cop killing. Okay. The killing there in Dallas by that police officer of our brother comes on the heels of the one other officer, he shot young Jordan Davis.
Exactly.
And I'm saying Jordan Davis, but that's our brother that was killed in Florida. Let me get our brother down there. Let me get his correct name. But go ahead, Brother Damon. I think they just got over one.
Exactly. I think Dallas Police Department is a majority black police department. I have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement in the Black Police Association down in Dallas, and I think under Chief Brown, it was known as one of the most accountable, transparent police departments in the nation.
Chief Brown, pardon me, Chief. Two points of clarification. So for me, Chief Brown, by the way, is the chief that was he was at the helm when the 5 officers were shot in Dallas. One,
exactly,
the brother,
exactly.
Okay,
yes,
right.
Ma'am.
And then,
yes, ma'am.
And then let me say let me give this to, again, pardon the interruption, brother, but I don't want to go too far with my error being out there. Our young brother in Jordan Edwards, that's his name. Jordan Davis was killed in Florida by the vigilante who said the music was too loud, tried to kill them all in the car.
Exactly.
Jordan Edwards, 15 years old, was killed in Dallas. You see how it's mounting up so many, but it's no excuse for a mistake. Go ahead, brother, with your point you were making. Thank you.
But known as under Chief Brown, it was the police department was very transparent, very accountable. This issue with this officer going to the wrong house and killing someone in his house is very tragic. But even though it's tragic, and I know you mentioned that they claim that the officer worked, extra hours of overtime, and that happens. And I think in the long term of this conversation, that needs to be addressed because people do not understand. A lot of times, and I'm not taking anything from away from this officer being accountable for killing his brother.
Okay.
But I think we get lost sometimes in the understanding. Like a lot of times they will put up how much a police officer makes. Oh man, he made over 100,000 in overtime. He made 150,000 overtime. But they work hours, right? So we have to look at, holding her accountable for what she did, because something should have triggered her that she's at the wrong door. And I think as human beings, right, when you live in apartment buildings, sometimes you get off at the wrong floor. You're not paying attention. And your auto drive will send you to the door that looks like the door that you put that key in, right? And something shouldn't set off when you say, man, my key ain't working in the door.
No, I don't have a mat.
It has happened to me before. Then I look at the number. I said, Jesus, man, I'm on the wrong floor. Right? I don't kick in the door, and I don't shoot the person that's in the house. And
Continue.
I don't do none of that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't do none of that.
Yeah.
But that also goes back into, the fear, right? The white fear of the black male, right? Because she didn't realize that she didn't realize she was in the wrong apartment. That fear kicked in that there's a black man in front of me, right? And she killed him. Now, what would have been the right thing to do if she felt a man was in her house, right? Get on the phone, call her backup, right? I think there's somebody in my house.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
So why didn't she do that? She was in uniform, right? And we need to really find out what happened when the brother opened up the door, or if she went into the house, right? And where did he get shot at? They haven't let out
the chest.
He get shot in the house.
It's in the final call.
Shot in the hallway.
Let's see. Let me check it out. As you continue, I'm gonna check it out for you. Okay. But you're right. You're right. As you continue, Brother Damon, you're right. There's sequence of events, and none of them triggered wrong. Look, I have gone and taken my key and tried to unlock a black Toyota 4Runner before at a shopping parking lot. And I'm like, oh, Lord, don't let anybody here have an alarm that goes off, because it was a mistake. They look just alike. They had the black frame around the license plate, but it said two different things. But nonetheless, we're talking about something else here. There's something else here, and it's a trained officer, and the questions are being asked about her sobriety and other different things. But one point Brother Jihad makes in the story, it's either in his narrative or a quote from a source, but one point he makes is, repeatedly we see police officers as vigilantes, but police officers walk or get lenient discipline when they commit crimes that civilians would commit. And this woman was off duty. She was off duty. Exactly. But the law enforcement shield there is working for her. But there's a lot of outrage. As you know, there's a lot of outrage.
You're absolutely right. And because she's a trained professional.
That's right. Trained.
She should be held accountable for her actions.
Yeah.
You are law enforcement 24/7.
Yeah.
Even if you're off duty.
Yeah.
Right? So she should be held accountable, because like a regular civilian is not trained. They don't go through the academy. They don't have yearly refresher courses.
Right.
They don't, study Article 35 or use of force, continual force. They don't have none of that. So if they act, they act they'll be held on a civilian level, and it's not that much accountability. But because of the fact that she's been on a year, she's been on the job a certain amount of years.
Yeah.
She has a certain amount of years of training. She's trained in the use of force, deadly force, the continual force, whether she can use a baton, taser, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So she should be held at a higher standard. And the question is, she went into this man's house. If you go into somebody's house, you're trespassing.
That's right.
Right? You're trespassing. If you go walk on somebody's yard, you're trespassing. How did she get in this man's house? We still got to find out.
Yeah.
Where was he killed at? We still got to find out. But the chief automatically should suspend her. She should be fired. I mean, it's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Suspended without pay. I would have fired her and said, said she had the right to appeal. Many times, I used to look at Chief Brown's tweets, and he would say, Officer so-and-so was fired today. He has the right to appeal. He used to tweet that stuff. Right now, we got the sister at the helm. Right?
Yeah.
She did one thing correct. She brought in, I think, the sheriffs or a different police body to actually do the investigation of the incident. But there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions that really need to be answered. As we move forward. But at the end of the day, there was a death, and that police officer off duty. She was in the wrong house.
Yeah.
She wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
She needs to be held accountable.
Hey, what are we told? And look, I want to let you know, Cephas Uncle Bobby X Johnson is on the line. We're going to bring you in really quickly in a minute, Uncle Bobby. But look, we're told ignorance is no excuse, right? Oh, you in the wrong apartment? Okay, yeah, I understand. Exactly. But you shot somebody. He's dead. He's dead, officer. He's not coming back. You shot someone. You pulled your service weapon, and there were things you could do. But Mothers Against Police Brutality, Colette Flanagan, her son in 2013 was unarmed, 25-year-old Clinton Allen. He was fatally shot 7 times by a Dallas officer. And she's saying regardless of how the case is ultimately decided in court, the officer has forfeited any right to serve on the force. And they want her fired immediately. People are calling for this officer to be fired, And, when we see things like this and you have to push and fight, look, in Your Highness Measurely, let's bring in Uncle Bobby, if we could. I'm about to talk about his nephew. In Oscar Grant's case, Oakland turned up. Oakland protested, Oakland burnt things, Oakland shut businesses down, the community. And it wasn't just like, I understand protesting. You can't just say, though, when you hear some people say rabble-rousers are protesters and you have one segment of the community is saying, well, we should do it this way. We should pray. We should march. We shouldn't protest. We shouldn't this. Everybody's playing their role. But Oakland took it to the level that made them stop and act. They got that district attorney out of there. He would not meet with people. He was pointing and picking and saying, I'm going to meet with you. And the community was like, yeah, no, we're all coming in. And days and days and days. And I remember at that time, Mayor Ron Dellums, the great brother Ron Dellums, former congressperson, was out there walking. Oakland turned it up. And they forced them to go and get this officer. Uncle Bobby, are you there?
I am here.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brother. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm fine. Thank you, Sister Charlene.
Praise be on. Thank you for joining us. I know you know Brother Damon K. Jones. I think you all know each other. If not, meet here.
I think we talked before.
Yeah.
I think we talked
before. The name is definitely familiar.
Yeah, Blacks in Law Enforcement, New York rep. Uncle Bobby,
right.
I pulled you in because I started talking about Oscar and how the Justice for Oscar Grant movement made what happened happen. And though we know it's a slap on the wrist, that would not have happened without the people's pressure, right? And the unity. I do want you to talk about that. And Brother Damon mentioned there needs to be a policy change, effect on the policy level. And you all have been very successful. We got some wins here in California lately in terms of pushing legislation through. So can you just talk about the effect of how Your Highness Measurely got brought to the semblance of justice that we saw, and talk about some of the legislation?
Sure. Thank you, Sister Charlene. And while I'm doing that, I had thought about a particular case. One, I believe it was, I want to say Minnesota, but I forget exactly, where the white woman mistakenly was killed by the brother police officer, and he was immediately fired.
Let me look for it.
Exactly.
I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't remember all the circumstances behind that, but what I do remember is that there was immediate action taken where he was fired.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She was at the door of the police car. She was reporting something, and they pulled in the alley. Right. She went to the door, and bam, bam. Oh, yeah, he was out of there. It was no hands down.
Right. I mean, and so in essence, right, we have a situation where we got a white boy that's basically out of his mind, mentally ill, with a weapon in his hand, talking about killing folks, and he could get talked down, the weapon taken out of his hand, and he could be escorted to some mental facility, if not jail. This happens on a regular, consistent basis.
Exactly.
If a brother was either mentally ill or not mentally ill, and disturbed and going through some expression, it's not going to be a talk down. No space and time is going to be committed, and therefore the brother's going to be shot and killed.
Yeah.
And then the question comes up later. Well, he was mentally ill, but then it was a justifiable shooting because he attempted to endanger this officer's life. So we see this on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And then I want to say this right before I talk about Oscar.
Sure.
I was at when Obama was doing the 21st century policing. I think I was in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think this one was in Oakland. And I had made the statement that when we talk about black police officers engaging, we'll say a young black man or male or female, right, there is a sense of understanding, and of course that element of fear is not there by that officer. He doesn't fear us, right? So he would take his time, he would create the time and space to either bring us down out of our sickness at that moment in time. If not, if he have to, he'll put hands on you.
Mm-hmm.
But most likely it's not going to just be pull out a gun and shoot you.
Yeah.
No.
Because you
it's
expressed yourself.
Wow.
And so I was sharing this, and I was saying, to me, what that's telling us is that the training procedures need to be led by black police officers. Because our brothers have much more of a sense of ease in dealing with situations that are really hostile. When it comes to anybody, where we got these white police officers that will train you, right? Now, I've never been into any training course, so I could be wrong, Brother Damien.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe, just listening to one of the police officers here when he spoke about training and how the question about what happens can be articulated better later. But at that moment in time, it's about your life or that individual's life, and so white officers will shoot much faster than brothers, I believe. And I could be wrong on that, but I think the numbers are telling us that what we see on a regular, consistent basis, white officers will
in the majority.
quickly.
In the majority, brother.
Majority.
There's some black law enforcement will beat you in the head faster than the white one.
As
As
NWA showed in the movie.
They're part of the culture.
Right.
To prove that they're part of the culture. But all in all, right, the black law enforcement understands. There's some that slip through the crack, right? But all in all, black law enforcement that come from the black community will have more tolerance and care more because they're not going to beat up Ray Ray because they went to high school with Ray Ray's mother, you know. So they're going to treat the community different, but because of we are outnumbered, right? You have some that will fall into the system to prove that they belong in this blue uniform and will do their people just as dirty as some of the races will have.
Yeah. Look, brothers, if I could, too, as you talk about these officers who do care, the black officers, I just want to pause and take a minute to say thank Allah for the life of Brother Kenneth Garner. He was a deputy chief here at the 77th Division, and Brother Kenny was working to do a lot, yes, my husband and he were very, very good friends, college friends, childhood friends, but we also knew him in the profession. And if we had more like Brother Kenny, I think we'll be good, like Brother Damon and many, many, many others. But I just wanted to say that because as you two were talking, I thought about him and I saw and witnessed what he was doing and the positive impact he was having. But he had a heart attack at 53. But go ahead.
Right. So I guess if I was to talk about Oscar, and I think if I'm clear, Sister Charlene, you want me to talk about what happened in the movement that came out behind and how he was arrested, charged, convicted, and sent to jail.
Hey, yes, like Brother Keith has in the book, Lessons Learned.
Okay.
That if people could really get the book and follow the steps, it could, but go ahead.
Right. So I think one of the most important aspects of that whole thing was, the community, labor, as well as political folks, black people, coming together and standing together and believing that this individual, we'll say Oscar, because it was Oscar at the time,
yes,
really had a right to some form of justice, and that this officer should be held accountable. And of course, the system in many ways always try to divide and dilute that voice or that movement of people, because it was very strong with black folks and the leaders of Oakland. But because the leaders of Oakland didn't allow themselves to get picked off or divided, or one became like he could be the superhero and speak on behalf of everybody without their consent, it was much more of a problem for the system. And so they had to, and Ron Dellums, as you know, definitely our condolences to the family. We just was at his vigil on Sunday, or a special program for him. But anyhow, the only reason why he was arrested, because Ron Dellums told the Oakland Police Department that they had to go get him and arrest him now. That in essence, he was forced behind black folks, speaking to him about how important this was to us as a community, because what we was sitting on was a kettle of folks getting ready to just go off.
Powder
it didn't happen. Right. Yeah. Even though it did happen, it didn't happen to the degree that it could have happened.
That's right. I've been a witness. That's right.
So Ron Dillon felt that urgency and made that call and had that officer arrested. And then, of course, the trial began, and Michael Raines made the argument that he made a mistake. Yeah. And, of course, the entire system, even from the jury, the jury did find him guilty on the gun enhancement charge, which was an automatic 10 years. But they also found him guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Okay, we were broken with that, but we knew we had a minimum of time of 12 years. But then, of course, the judge said he erred in his instructions to the jurors and took the gun enhancement off the table, and then said that because this is his first offense, he's going to put him on he gave him 2 days served every day in jail, reduced his time down to 11 months, and then put him on what you call non-revocable parole, which is a piece of legislation, I believe, only in the state of California. It could be elsewhere, where an officer or an individual that a judge deemed fit non-revocable parole means that if they go to prison or go to jail and they get out and they have no contact with the police for a year, that felony automatically falls off their record. Amazing. When that felony falls off their record, that officer or individual can go back and get a gun, but an officer can receive his weapon back and then reapply to the agency he was fired from. Yeah. Right, which what Leslie did. Of course, the BART Police Department denied him the right to come back. That's why he had to leave the Bay Area. He's down in Southern California for what we understand in Long Beach.
Isn't that something? But, Uncle Bobby, as you continue, because I heard your butt, I wanted to just go back a little bit and point out that the way that they were going to do this was written on the wall, because they moved it from Alameda County down here to L.A. County. But the L.A. protesters and activists and advocates still turned out for and kept a vigil on this every day, and it kept that heat on. And also there was a debate about it. Like the lawyers argued, they raised that jury instruction, and he said, "We'll take it up later. It's okay. It's fine." No,
right.
You're
absolutely right. I said in court, I didn't miss not one day, all through the arguments, even through the jury selection. And, of course, the issues that was going to come up later, where Judge Robert Perry knew that would be his excuse and way out to make sure this officer wasn't really held accountable for the full at the time that he should have been. Yeah. And that argument was put off by him purposely. Yeah. We'll deal with it at the time. Of course, at the time was when the jury came back with the gun enhancement charge. Then he dealt with it by simply saying, you have the right to appeal it, but I made a mistake, so I'm going to take it off. But you can do what you want later. Yeah, You know,
I just wanted to pinpoint that on, because that forever stayed in my memory. Like, this is the enemy. But go ahead, and we're going to come up on a quick break. But go ahead, Uncle Bobby.
Right. But I think, in essence, overall, what was really critical in our movement was the fact that the community did come together, and labor even supported those real political black figures that represented us in the Bay Area spoke up, and even some particular black law enforcement didn't hide their feelings about what happened. So there was an element of unity that took place that helped allow us to move forward in getting justice in I won't say justice. We made history. We didn't really get justice, but we made history in what happened with Johannes Wesley. Yeah. One of the few. But I do want to cite this. A young brother in Portsmouth, Virginia, William Chapman. He, the officer that killed him, I forget his name at the moment, also got 2.5 years. And the circumstances of that case was almost identical to ours. The judge there was a black judge, and he didn't throw out the gun enhancement charge, or the gun, I forget what they call it. They don't call it a gun enhancement charge like we do in the state of California.
Is there a special circumstance or something?
It's some kind of special circumstances. He kept that in there, and that's why the officer, he only ended up getting 2.5 years, right? But the circumstances behind that case was very similar to ours. I think one of the things that didn't happen was the community rising up like Oakland did. But, of course, in saying all that to say, every state, every city, that is experiencing police terrorism or police brutality or state-sponsored violence responds in their way that they were birthed into. Oakland, as you know, is the birthplace of activism. No. So everybody here is born into activism. So it's in our DNA. So anything, especially when it comes to police here in the Bay Area, is spoken to extremely hard. Wow. And the Black Panthers left a strong legacy, because we know in 1950, California State Assembly held the first in the nation hearing on police brutality. Right. The first in the nation. Wow. Right here in the state of California. And so there were many elements that centered around what happens with police brutality in Oakland. Yeah. And the sisters I could go on and on with that.
I already know.
I don't want to belabor.
I already know you got the history, Uncle, but I already know that, and thank you for that. And the officer's name is Stephen Rankin. Officer Stephen Rankin, who killed William Chapman. Uncle Bobby, right. I want to say thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to release you now, because we're going to talk about some things dealing with Brother Damon's family right out of New York, some personal things. And Uncle Bobby, thank you so much. Got to have you back. I appreciate you, and keep fighting. And greetings to the family.
Thank you, Sister Charlene. One thing, Brother Damien, keep up the good work, man. Represent us well.
Thank you, sir.
I take my hat off to the National Black Police Association for speaking up on Colin Kaepernick's behalf when it came to, of course, Nike. Yep. And so, I mean, let me just say it like this. Our black police officers can actually help escalate the real change to come. And one thing I didn't talk about, and one thing I didn't talk about, Sister Charlene, and I just throw this in there, I know I got to go. Sure. Is SB 1421 is the right to know bill that we got all the way into the governor's hand. So right now we need all your listeners to go to www. Love Not Blood campaign website. On the menu bar, you'll see a template letter or template for Know Your Rights or Right to Know. Click on that, and you can get a copy of the template letter. You can get the phone numbers to make these calls to urge Governor Brown to sign that legislation into law. And then next year, when the session reopens, we'll be launching AB 931, which is the use of force bill by Dr. Weber out of San Diego. It got beat up this time. We got beat up by him because, the police union and everybody came against him. But when we think about this white woman that shot this brother, did she even consider any de-escalation tactics? Of course not. Right. She went straight to murder mode. Right. And the brother's dead. In the wrong apartment. Don't make no kind of sense. But anyway, let me not belabor that too. Much love to the both of you. And thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Love you too, Uncle Bobby. Greetings to Sister Beatrice and the family. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Brother Damon, I was going to take a break, but I don't want to take a break. I want to press the gas because we do have your position on Nike and Kaepernick, as well as what's happening at the Cute Cupcake Boutique. If I said the name right. So which do you want to tackle first? I think maybe we just hit a little bit on Nike and then take the rest of the time on the family.
Let's talk about Nike. I think, big hat, Sister Sonia Wiggins Pruitt, who is the national chairman of the National Black Police Association, set it off. And I want to say, and I know her personally, I used to serve on the executive board of the National Black Police Association. Matter of fact, I was chairman of the National Membership Committee, and she was vice chairman. Now she's national chairman. And I'm going to say online, and I said it on Facebook, and I tagged her, that how proud I am that a few months into her office of being national chair, she set off that letter against the National Police Officers Association and the Fraternal Order of Police.
Now, what happened? What happened? Because I know, because what we're talking about, viewers and who may not be aware, Colin Kaepernick has an ad with Nike.
Exactly.
Racists or people who disagree are burning their shoes, and it's a whole big controversy about protest, not protest, because people are upset. It's all involving this NFL strike. I mean, this NFL debate, this violence that's happening. But go ahead.
Right. So the white police association, majority, I mean, they have black membership, but they're majority white, had sent out letters to Nike, actually, disagreeing with Nike's position with Colin Kaepernick. And it's the usual rhetoric when it comes to Colin Kaepernick. What about the white police officers that have been killed? What about the veterans?
Blue lives.
This is disrespectful to law enforcement. Blue Lives Matter. All the usual rhetoric that we hear from law enforcement and majority police unions when it comes to people that stand up for police brutality, for unjust killings of black people, and accountability of police. And it's really unfortunate because, these organizations, like the Federation of Police, a lot of people don't understand. In the South, and a lot in the Midwest, and maybe on the West Coast, the FOP are the collective bargaining unit for police officers, meaning that they're the union.
Yeah.
In New York, they're only a fraternal organization. We have different unions that handle the police officers. And because of they're the union in a lot of states, black officers pay dues to them, right? Because we need union representation.
Right.
So we're caught, and when they take these positions, they're disrespecting the actual black membership that pay their dues. There was an incident in Chicago where a white officer killed a young black male, and the FOP, the Fraternal Organ of Police, took a position that the black officers threatened to pull their union dues because they said that the union should have stayed neutral. Because clearly it was an unjust killing of a young black male. And the black officers felt disrespected when the unions took the actual position.
I can see that.
So they attacked Nike, and with the usual rhetoric. And my sister set it off with a beautiful letter supporting Colin Kaepernick, supporting Nike, supporting Nike's position, supporting the right of free speech, the right of free association, and the issues of police and the black community. And the National Black Police Association is the oldest national organization of black law enforcement professionals. There's a lot of history that comes with it.
Yeah.
And the NBPA, those letters.
Yeah.
So we follow suit, Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, but we specifically went after the FOP because we wanted to question the FOP. Now, you get mad or upset because Colin Kaepernick wears some socks with the pig, with the police hat on.
He sure
and
did.
He said, well, they're calling us pig. Right. So they get all sentimental about that, but they have never admonished officers for calling us the N-word calling us any racial words when they're dealing with the black community. Brother Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., who was killed in White Plains, New York,
a veteran,
was a retired correction officer, and a close friend of my family.
Wow.
They have the cops on audio tape calling the man the N-word.
Yeah.
And not one white union or one white organization said it was wrong.
Wow.
Right? So for them, so it's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
So we had to call the FOP out for even saying that. And where has these organizations, these same organizations that want to attack Nike and want to attack Kaepernick, where have they been, right, in the movement, in the building the relationship between law enforcement and the community? They haven't been anywhere, right? And the FOP, right, they sided with Trump. They was the first people to jump on the Trump bandwagon, and they put out Trump's first 100-day memo.
Wow.
They wanted less accountability of police. They wanted harsher punishment on immigration, and they wanted Trump to pull back the 21st century policing model. So these organizations don't care about black life,
KKK.
And they really don't care about the black officers neither, because when we're shot and killed by our white counterparts, they make it our fault.
Yeah, you should have had a sign, waving a sign saying I'm a police officer, and Lord, don't be in plain clothes, please.
Exactly.
And try to do something. The way that black officers are killed when they're off duty in civilian wear, it's almost like a deterrent. It's like, well, I see this happening. I'm trained to go and help, but if I go, will I come out of this alive? It's warped thinking. The minister, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, tells us the mind is created to think rightly, but we have to twist and turn to make sense of all of this when we should just say what it is. It's wrong. It's injustice. And as our father, Minister Farrakhan, says, it's justifiable homicide.
Exactly. And I don't carry a gun. My wife, she's a detective in Mount Vernon. She don't carry her off-duty weapon because we're not trying to get shot.
Isn't that
something? And they say, brother, you ain't carrying your weapon? Wow. Absolutely not. Why you ain't carrying your weapon? Because I don't want to be shot.
Isn't that something? You're licensed and you're a protector. Wow. But you're smart. You're smart, brother.
But I know.
You're smart.
I know. I'm 6'2", black and bald. If I pull that gun out in the street, I'm getting shot by the first uniform car that pull up. They ain't going to ask no questions.
Later.
Anything. They just going to shoot my black behind.
Yeah. And be like, oh, wow. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And then we get, we get caught up as black law enforcement that we're actually part of this institution. Right?
Yeah, come on.
I've seen officers, I've worked with white officers, right?
Right.
And back in the day when you had to go, before direct deposit, you had to go to the bank and cash your check. Right? And on Thursday, the Bank of New York up the hill from the jail was packed. Right?
Yeah.
But when you go one day, you go on your day off and you got your regular clothes on, the white officer will look you dead in your face and won't even speak.
Wow.
Right? Because he don't see his fellow officer. Wow. He see a black person standing there.
Isn't that something?
You know, but when you put that uniform on, you walk into jail. Hey, brother.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
damn, that's payday. You ain't say, hey, brother, when I was in plain clothes.
It's separate. It's like, this is work. I'm not fraternizing with you outside of work. And in fact, if you look wrong, I will kill you. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't have to do this here. Isn't that something?
Exactly.
Brother Damon, we have about 4 minutes. I want to dedicate some time to
what. Quick.
No, but you're okay. I want to give it all to you, the last of it, for your daughter. How's that happening? What's happening?
I can't talk too much about it because we grab legal counsel.
Okay.
But the listeners can Google Cupcake Cutie, Mayor Richard Thomas, Mount Vernon. And what I could say that Minister Farrakhan is totally correct. When you speak truth to power and you call out the devil, they will react.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
they will react. So the situation is that other than me being law enforcement, I'm a publisher of a local paper in Westchester County called Black Westchester. We come out monthly, but we're online. We have been holding black politicians in Mount Vernon accountable to black people.
Come on now.
And a certain black and the mayor, Richard Thomas, has put in charge a campaign donor who is a garbage man. That's what he does. He has a private garbage company and made him deputy police commissioner of the police department. He has no law enforcement experience.
Wow.
And everybody can look up the Attorney General indictment of Mayor Richard Thomas and read it themselves.
Wow.
They could read it. He's in court now on campaign finance charges. And they have systematically been going after my family because I have been holding them accountable and speaking truth to justice, whether it's through black in law enforcement or the paper. They unjustly suspended my wife for over 9 months. We fought hard to keep her job because she's a detective for the police department. And now they have tried systematically to shut down my wife's and my daughter's bakery shop that's in Mount Vernon.
Wow.
And we are not having it. So I can say that because that's already in the news.
Yes, sir, I understand.
The listeners can Google it. They can see the videotape. They could go on Facebook, go on Black Westchester. You can see the live videotape where they put the police tape in front of my daughter's shop and threaten people. If they come into the shop, they'll get arrested for disorderly conduct.
So they didn't just close it. They put a police tape like this, but it's a murder scene. They committed murder. Like we're killing this shop. Right? Isn't that's evil? Yeah. Well, everyone, please go.
But the teaching, you understand, is correct when you call the devil out. Because when he said he called the devil out, he never said a color.
That's right.
He said the devil. Right? So that's right.
Wait, Brother David, let me tell you, I was listening to a tape by the minister this morning. Forgive me, I don't remember it. It's on YouTube. But he was laughing. He said, this is why you're having a hard time trying to find the devil. You're looking for the devil and you're having a hard time because he's in you. I'm going to find it. But go ahead. He said, he's in you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he also taught on understanding black politics by money, right? And they're not going to do nothing for our community, and that's what Mayor Thomas is. And you know what? Y'all don't have to take my word for it. Just pull up the New York State Attorney General's indictment of Mayor Richard Thomas, and you could read for yourself.
Brother Damon K. Jones, I think that the viewers will. I certainly am going to go more into it. I've looked at what you sent me. I pray all turns out well with that, but truth will prevail. And so thank you. I say as Uncle Bobby did, thank you for standing for us. Thank you for always speaking with me for the Final Call newspaper and all of our writers. You never fail to answer our call, and we do appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You got to come back, and much success, continued success and prayers, okay?
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
That's our show for today. So I want to say thank you again to Brother Damon K. Jones, the New York representative of blacks in law enforcement. Thank you, Cephas' Uncle Bobby X Johnson, the uncle of Oscar Grant III, for coming on. I just happened to toss Uncle Bobby into the gumbo. Thank you, Sister Beatrice, his wife, for making that happen for me. Thank you, our producer, engineer, and owner right here at Mars Media Studios, Sister Felicia, the poetess Mars. Remember, we're here every Tuesday. I almost forgot this morning, y'all. Y'all might have to give me a wake-up call next week. I was thrown off, but we're every Tuesday. Thank Allah. Remember finalcall.com for this week's cover story and more cutting-edge news and features. While there, subscribe to our digital edition. You can also subscribe to the hard copy. You can get that right in the mail. Visit NOI.org for lectures from Minister Farrakhan, from his student national assistant, Minister Ishmael Muhammad, as well as many, many others. Visit lctwmusic.com for Minister Farrakhan's 44-song box set, Let's Change the World. You will be pleased that you did. In the words of our Western region representative and great champion for the people out here in the West, but really across the country, Brother Minister Tony Muhammad, meet me at the mosque this Sunday and every Sunday, 8701 South Vermont, at Manchester. The doors open at 10:30. The lecture starts at 11 o'clock. Tell them you're a guest from Sister Charlene Muhammad. Here, Liberated Sisters is Friday at 8 a.m. on Radio Justice LA at radiojustice.org, and also on Saturday, 8 a.m., 90.7 FM, kpfk.org. And please like us on Facebook. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad saying if it's impacting our community or can uplift us as a people, let's talk about it. Peace.